Yes, this is really a novel thing. Had you seen an example of this occurring somewhere else, Richard? I mean, what ultimately, obviously writing the letter, and surely as it kicks off, and folks do need to pick up copies of it if they haven't seen it. I think you mentioned that you could get it at Amazon.com if they haven't seen copies of the book, but for our viewers in the PD in southeastern North Carolina who may come down to the beach at times, there's a location you mentioned, I believe, Ooh La La, Myrtle Beach, and then here in Conway.
Right. Well, Conway, Park Smith carries it.
Encore.
The Encore, the gift shop over here on, I think it's 2nd Avenue covers it.
Right.
And then Crown and Country, the decorators cover
Yes,
it. And,
yes.
They've been my best sellers so far.
Is that right? Great.
They have
Well, of course, Amazon's a great vehicle for viewers all over who may not have seen it or may not have seen it in the locations and just picking it up for the first time. I actually saw one of the original manuscripts of the publication dealing with women, A Survivor's Guide, which my mother-in-law gave me a copy of. Right. And said, make sure and return this after you spend some time with it. And it really, it kicked off, I saw your original manuscript kicked off as the letters being sent from a Roscoe Ovalack.
That's right.
Give us, who was Roscoe Ovalack? And
well, Roscoe was just a name I picked up from a friend's Welch Corgi. Ovalack was a function when I was in the military, particularly going to some of the military schools. I was a second lieutenant, and the captains would come in, and they felt compelled to give us advice from time to time and or feel important. So I took my name tag and took the stitching for L off, and I took off the stitching for E. So if someone upbraided me, they would call me Lieutenant Ovalack. And then if they had someone to put on report, it was Lieutenant Ovalack. And that was simply a carry forward from that methodology.
Brilliant, Richard.
That I use that.
Yes, and one that I'm sure your sons would have gotten a kick out of getting that. They probably knew that, the history of that. Of course, to see that, I mean, just the fun you had in your original manuscript, addressing it to Blake Ovalack and to Macon Ovalack, and just opening up just that simple aspect from your wife. Have you yet had the talk?
The talk
with the boys there.
With the boys,
which would have been, and what was your original response to Rebecca? Was it what you shared early on?
Well, the sophistication of young folks when my children were 14 and 16 was so significant in my judgment that I didn't know that talk needed to be had. But if it did need to be had, it needed to be done in frank and expansive terms that told them the realities of what one had to look for and be careful about.
Right.
And dealing with relationships. One of the things that I'll try to quote for you, if I can find it here, never as a married man have an affair with a single woman, no matter what disclosures you make to her about your marital status, no matter what intellectual agreements the two of you reach with regard to lack of commitment or the short-term nature and or non-permanence of the relationship, or the fact there's no need in her life for your relationship to be anything other than occasional and sexual in nature. Ultimately, she's going to call your wife and say, "He loves me, turn him loose."
Excellent words, Richard. Excellent words. You've got to tell me that Rebecca was involved, and Saint Rebecca was involved in this somehow, or did you do it all? Did she ever look at it before you actually put the letters in the mail?
She never looked at it. It was with some trepidation.
Oh yeah, I bet.
That when it was put together, that I had her look at it.
Right.
But saint that she is, she was amused by it.
Yeah.
And I think she very much enjoyed it, and I think she concurred with whatever wisdom I was able to impart.
Did she ever say after the fact, particularly in '08 when it was published, and she looked back and read back over them, well, you know, why did we leave that out? Or I would have added this in there. Was there ever, virtually any publication, as you go back and read things and think, was there anything you would have done or changed back in '96 or in '02 when the second set of letters went out, or in '07? Is there anything as you look back on it that you would have added, or possibly even anything you would have left out?
Well, what I basically did, you write something one day and you read it the next day and you wonder if you have any education at all. and so this book really evolved over a period of 2 or 3 years because some sentences I wasn't satisfied with in terms of their clarity. Mm-hmm. And so some of the letters in their final form vary from the original text, but not remarkably.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good.
I mean, there were some elliptical sentences that I had to close down.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But that's essentially the message it went originally, and it was very, very well received by my wife, and the ladies' garden clubs and or book clubs have asked me to make presentations on the book. In fact, the ladies in town have purchased more of the books than anyone else, and in fact bought out the inventory at Amazon.com. So so I had to replenish that.
That's a great sign. Congratulations! You can track down the orders. I guess Amazon will show you where those are coming from so clearly.
They can. Nobody has made any comments yet, which I continue to look for, but maybe that'll be forthcoming at some point in time.
Yes, yes. I think one of our guests early this week, Ann Powell, who was with us actually yesterday, had commented that if she can get her hands on one, she will, because virtually anyone in communities would have an interest in this. Anyone who has sons, anyone who has grandsons, or even great-grandchildren, both boys and girls. And I bet there's a lot of girls who would pick this up and think, well, you know, I'm kind of embarrassed that he knows these kind of things, that someone's given him that advice. These are little secret nuggets that I hate to let out.
Well, all of my friends who have daughters gave them copies of the book.
Oh, come on.
And I've heard comments from all of them that they loved it and enjoyed it. So
that is tremendous, Richard. You did say when you came in early this morning you'd be willing to come back and be with us tomorrow. Are you still good with that?
I'd be glad to do that.
Great. Okay. Well, thank
Greg,
you. This is tremendous.
Appreciate it.
Stay tuned to a little more with Richard M. Lovelace, Jr., author, Dealing with Women, A Survivor's Guide, coming up next. The title of the book, Dealing with Women, A Survivor's Guide. The author, Richard M. Lovelace, Jr. The place to pick up a copy, Amazon.com, or at the beach at Ooh La La, Encore Gifts, Crown and Country here, and even Park Smith in Conway, South Carolina. You know, I knew we were right on and had to get the opportunity of getting Richard in when I spoke with his wife, and she said, I don't normally endorse many things my husband writes, but this book is spot on. We took the time to get him in. We're going to get him in tomorrow for part 2. Come back, be with us. Richard, thanks so much.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate being with you all.